Good morning. It's Friday morning. This is different for me, but I believe I'm going to cut back and just do one video a week, and that video will be on Fridays. You know, many of you out there have no concept of what it was like in the 1960s, much less what it was like to be on the water in the 1960s. We had no cell phones. We had no GPS. We did not even have recreational use of the NORAD navigation system. Consequently, there were fewer recreational boats. And those people that had boats, very few of them ventured very far out or very far from port. You got in trouble on the water, you were in trouble. I grew up fishing in the very eastern corner of what they call the Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle. It's a spot of water that goes from Miami to Bermuda to Puerto Rico and back to Miami, consequently the triangle. But a lot of people died in that area. A lot of people got lost. A lot of people were never heard from again in that area. And there are reasons for that. But if you got in trouble on the water, you had to know what you were doing. It's not like Percy Priest Lake. There were very few boats back then. Today on Percy Priest Lake, there are hundreds of boats out there any given day. We have cell phones. If I take somebody with me, there are 2 cell phones in the boat. We have probably 3 GPS, one in my boat, one on each one of those phones. We know where we are every second of the trip. There's boat ramps everywhere. Back in the old days, if we went a long way offshore or went in the Everglades where everything could be lost forever, we usually had 2 boats. We carried a little spare engine in the boat. I always carried an extra gas tank, not because I might run out of fuel, but I might get water or something in one tank, and I always would be able to switch to the other tank and get home. Consequently, we grew up learning to help other people on the water. If you saw somebody broke down, you went over and tried to help them get their motor started. If you couldn't, you towed them in. It was commonplace to tow people in. Happened all the time. I have towed many people back to the dock, and I've been towed back a couple of times myself. You're extremely thankful when that happens. But what if you're going fishing and you've loaded the boat with the bait that you want, you know what fish are hitting, you know where they're hitting, and you're on your way out there and you pass somebody that's in trouble? You couldn't pass them up because it might be an hour or days before somebody else came along. So you stopped. What if you had a bunch of friends on the boat and you were going somewhere water skiing and you passed somebody that was broke down? Where do you put your interest above the interest of others? You had to stop and help the poor guy that was broken down. And I grew up in school, and when I was in school, we always said the Pledge of Allegiance and sang the Star-Spangled Banner, and we repeated the Golden Rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. This morning I want to read from Luke chapter 6, and then I want to read from Philippians chapter 2. But in Luke chapter 6, verse 31, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High God, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. I want to turn over to Philippians chapter 2, beginning in verse 3 and 4. I believe Adam did this in his lesson just the other day. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility considers other better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interest, but to the interest of others. Your attitude should be the same as Jesus Christ. Be safe. Stay well out there.